Hello, chào tất cả các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với channel của mình. Thì hôm nay tiếp tục với series đọc truyện Peter Pan cùng mình. Thì hôm nay chúng ta hãy đến với phần số 32. Ok, là chúng ta đã next từ chapter 9 to chapter 10. Và bây giờ sẽ là chapter 10, chương 10, The Happy Home. Ok. One important result of the brush on the lagoon was that it made the redskins their friends. Peter had saved tirelessly from a dreadful fate, and now there was nothing she and her braves would do for him. All night they sat above, keeping watch over and their home under the ground, and awaiting the big attack by the pirates, which obviously could not be much longer delayed. Even by day they hung about, smoking the pipe of peace, and looking almost as if they wanted tidbits to eat. They called Peter the Great White Father, prostrating themselves before him, and she lied his tremulously, so that it was not really good for him. The Great White Father, he would say them in a very lordly manner, as they grover his feet, is glad to see the pecuniary warriors protecting his wigwam from the pirates. Me, tirelessly, that lovely creature would reply. Peter Pan saved me. Me, his very nice friend. Me, no let pirates hurt him. She was far too pretty to cringe this way, but Peter thought it was his due, and he would answer constantly, "It is good." Peter Pan was spoken. "Wendy," remonstrated Michael, "I'm too big for a cradle." "I must have somebody in a cradle," she said almost tartly, "and you are the littlest. A cradle is such a nice, homely thing to have about a house." While she still deployed around her, such a group of happy faces and dancing gleams lit up by the romantic fire. It had been a very family scene, this, in a home under the ground, but we are looking on it for the last time. There were a step above, and when you may be sure was the first to recognize it. "Children, I hear your father's step. He likes you to meet him at the door." And above, the redskins crouched before Peter. "Watch well, braves, I have spoken." And then, as so often before, the gay children dragged him from the tree. As so often before, but never again, he had brought nuts for the boys as well as a carrot tom for Wendy. "Peter, you just spoiled them, you know." Wendy's limber. "Oh, Our Lady," said Peter, hanging up his gun. "It was me throwing him, mothers." "Our call, old lady," Michael whispered to Coralie. The first string came to Peter. "Father, we want to dance." "Dance away, my little man," said Peter, who was in high good humor. "But we want you to dance." Peter was really best dancer among them, but he pretended to be scandalized. "Me? My old bones would rattle, and Mommy too." "What?" cried Wendy, the mother of such an orphan dance, but on a Saturday night, slightly insinuated. It was not really Saturday night. At least it might have been, for they had long lost count of the days, but always if they wanted to do anything special they said. This was Saturday night, and then they did it. Of course, it is Saturday night, Peter, Wendy said, relenting. Peter of our figure, Wendy, but it is out only among our own progeny. True, true. So, they were told they could dance, but they must put on their nighties first. And our old lady, Peter said aside to Wendy, warming himself by the fire and looking down at her as she sat turning a heel. There is nothing more pleasant an evening for you and me when the day's toil is over than to rest the fire with the little ones nearby. Michael takes after you. She went to him and put her hand on his shoulder. Dear Peter, she said, with such a large family, of course, I have now passed my best, but I don't want to change me, do you? No, Wendy certainly did not want a change, but he looked at her uncomfortably, blinking, like one not sure whether he was awake or asleep. Peter, what is it? I was just thinking, he said. A little skill, it is only make-believe, isn't it? That I am their father? Oh yes, Wendy said primly. You see, he continued apologetically, it would make me so old to be their real father. But they are ours, Peter, yours and mine. But not really, Wendy, he asked anxiously. Not if you don't wish it, she replied. And she distinctly heard a sigh of relief. Peter, she asked, trying to speak firmly, what are your exact feelings to me? Those of a devoted son, Wendy. I thought so, she said, and Wanda sat by herself and at the extreme end of the room. You are so queer, he said, frankly puzzled. Entirely it's just the same. There is something she wants to be to me, but she says it's not my mother. No, indeed, it is not. Wendy replied with frightful emphasis. Now we know why she was prejudiced against the Redskins. Then, what is it? It isn't for a lady to tell. Oh, very well, Peter said, a little nettled. Perhaps Tinkerbell will tell me. Oh yes, Tinkerbell will tell you, Wendy retorted scornfully. She's an obedient little creature. Here, think who was in her bedroom, eavesdropping, sneaked out something imprudent. She says she glories in being abandoned, Peter interpreted. He had a sudden idea. Perhaps things want to be my mother. You silly ass, cried Tinker in a passion. She had said it so often that Wendy needed to know translation. I almost agreed with her. Wendy snapped. Fancy Wendy snapping, but she had been much shy, and she little knew what was to happen before the night was out. If she had known, she would not have snapped